Hey there, so this video is 5 more tips on using watercolours, and hopefully you'll find it useful. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy the video. Mixing on paper. As a really quick demonstration, I'm going to do a tree. Now if you imagine that a tree is blue, right? Yeah, trees are all blue, we know that. So we'll do the blue bit here. And maybe some of the branch could be blue as well. Okay, a bit more blue there. So this is French ultramarine. Okay, now we all know the tops of trees are yellow. This is definitely a lovely Hansa yellow. Can't remember what the proper colour is. Anyway, so we'll put the yellow on top there. No, blue and a burnt umber together, they make a nice grey. So let's put a little bit of burnt umber in there. And also we can put a little bit of that in here. Okay, so there you can see what I've done is I've effectively mixed the colours on the paper. Now if you had to do that in the palette, what you would have been doing is going backwards and forwards in here, creating, you know, little bits of green and then a little bit of blue and messing about like that. Now this technique is really good for underpainting. So if that was going to be a base layer, you could go over the top. Now I'm actually going to pick up just some green here for simplicity and add in some layers. This isn't completely dry, so it's a bit wet in wet at the moment. That's a technique where you dab in, wet in wet is where you dab in pigment into an undried surface and it bleeds through. Okay, and then if I really wanted to be Captain Obvious, I could put in a little bit of, just to wrap this bit up, is I've learned about watercolour is actually imperfection is what makes a picture. You know, I personally quite like a rough and ready style. And I think it just adds a bit of life to it. Anyway, so there's one. Right, so here's tip number 2 of what I wish I knew about watercolours before I did watercolours, starting off watercolours of the title, that is that. So swatching. Swatching can be fun. It's a great way of learning about watercolour, and it's a great way about learning about colour theory. So here again, we're going to have this fabulous Hansa yellow, and with quite a wet brush, I'm going to stick some on there and really let that pigment be quite thick on there. Clean the brush, and then I'm going to go with the French ultramarine again. I use these colours a lot. Now this is the fine version. You can get a granulating version which can go quite cakey, but it's fun on some paper. So what I'm going to do is just run that like that, and then all I'm going to do here is just get some water, clean water, and I'm going to just pull those together like that. And that's all you can do there, and then you can see how those colours combine. So here, for example, is a micro palette, which is a very small, portable little painting palette with just 6 colours in, which I've used not a huge amount, but you can see it's had some usage. And when I first got this, it was important to understand exactly how the colours combine. So here I did some test swatching with those colours, and it can be just really useful to understand your materials. You can do it with inks. Again, this is some diamine swatches that I did, but it's always important to have a play with your materials and really get to grips with what they're capable of doing. So it's very easy to look at a drawing like this and think of it as, you know, a really complex process. And, you know, if you took it as a whole, it did take me quite a long time. But every single drawing is broken down into simpler elements. For me, primarily, because I'm a line and wash artist, the first bit is generally the line work, or pencil first, if it's complicated. And the second bit is painting. Now the painting process is something that you can actually separate and just have a complete play with. So, for example, find a bit of scrap paper. Let's go with that one there. Four little play pieces, a sort of lighthouse scene. I have no idea what that is. It could be a lake or water. The point is, it doesn't really matter. I've smashed some colours together. I've done. I've used this brush, which I don't use very often, and then I've done some interesting shapes with it to see what sort of brush marks I can make. This one was a complete mess. It didn't really turn out to be anything other than a sort of misty silhouette of a gate and a wall, but I like it. It's kind of got some abstract qualities that are quite cool. And what was my other piece? Oh yeah, this one of a boat. I've done these weird little sort of sparkly sea effects, which really didn't, I don't think, worked, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the point is that if I think maybe it would work if I sort of smeared it, or maybe actually what I could do is I could put some water on that and take them off if it doesn't work. Let's try that. So let's dilute that with a bit of water. How does that work? Oh, it just takes the paint off. Right, well, I've learned something there, haven't I? Because I've been playing, so there you go. That's the idea. I'm really labouring this point. I'm going to stop now and go on to the next bit before somebody dies of old age. The fourth thing is drawing challenges. Now, I'm going to do a blatant plug here. I've enjoyed drawing challenges lots over the years, and it's really interesting to see how everybody can tackle the same challenge, drawing challenge, and do it in a completely different way. And last year I decided to do, instead of Inktober, Boattober 2002, which was a challenge that I set up for people to draw in 31 different boats in 31 days of October. The nice thing about something like Instagram and YouTube is that if you've got an interest or a niche, you can find it. Now, in the intersection of watercolor, pen and wash, line and wash, and boat lovers, there is quite a few people that have really enjoyed this challenge, and it's really great to see. So if you want to see how different artists tackle the same subject in all the different wonderful ways, it's a great thing to do, drawing challenges. Now, one of the other benefits of doing drawing challenges, particularly if you're somebody who likes to interact on social media, commenting and things, is it helps you build a sense of community. And often if you're doing art yourself as a hobby or just on an evening or something, it's a way that you would retreat from society to get some solace. But it's also nice to get some feedback and to get some positive and support. So drawing challenges are good. I would recommend them if you're new to art, because it buoys you up and it keeps you going. So I'll be doing Boattober 2023, obviously in October. Hello again. This video is going to be about watercolours and good watercolours to buy when you're first starting out using watercolours. I use the word watercolours quite a lot then. Just watercolours. My final tip is, if you're anything like me, you did art as a kid growing up, and somewhere in your cupboard you've probably got something that looks like this, an old Winsor & Newton Cockman set, bits missing, all messed up. Nothing wrong with that as a starting point, absolutely nothing wrong with that, but the problem is where do you go from there? Now, I messed around a bit and read some different things, and I tried this St. Petersburg White Knights paint. There's nothing wrong with them, they're very good paints. The colours for me are perhaps a little bit too bright, some of them, but there's nothing wrong with those. But the problem I had was I was seeing a lot of other artists' work and thinking, oh, what colour have you used there, and what colour's that, and not getting the same results. So because a lot of artists actually use Daniel Smith colours, artists that I like, their work I really like, I decided to build a palette based on Liz Steele's palette. Again, there's a link below for that. Obviously in the interim, messed about and bought some more that I don't use anymore. Again, swatching. Just again, it's really useful to know your own colours. And I also have this micro palette, which I take urban sketching and things, but that's Daniel Smith as well. So anyway, this is where I'm at the moment with watercolours, and I can do pretty much everything I want at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying I won't experiment in future, but they're colour fast, they're not cheap, but they're good. So, and they suit me at the moment. So in conclusion, if I was going to start again, I would, if I've got a slight interest, I would get something cheap, like the Winsor & Newton set, but don't buy 100 paints. You don't need this many. You really don't need like all these, because you can actually mix pretty much every colour you want from that. That's quite challenging, so go halfway and get one that's got 12 or 16 colours, but certainly no more. And if you're enjoying it, and if you feel like, oh, I'm quite, this is a hobby I want to invest in, then go straight to some decent quality paints. Do hit subscribe, do hit like. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, so if I could get there, that would be great. And then I could make some beer money off ad revenue, which would be lovely. So yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.